What is bibliotherapy and how can it help you in your homeschool? Stay tuned to learn more.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Bennett, licensed professional counselor of over 20 years and a homeschooling mom for 5 of those years. And welcome back to my channel, the Homeschool Counseling Network. The Homeschool Counseling Network was founded to bridge the gap between professionals and homeschooling families, helping you find resources to support your homeschool in the areas of education, coaching, tutoring, testing, academic assessment, academic advising, and therapy, and so much more. To learn more about the Homeschool Counseling Network's mission and purpose, click on the link in the description box below or check out this card. And if you like the content that you see in these videos, please consider clicking the like and subscribe button so you will know when new videos arrive. But today, we're going to talk about bibliotherapy. What is bibliotherapy? Well, if bibliophiles are lovers of books, I'll bet you can guess what bibliotherapy is. It's books with therapy. Therapy that you can use all different types of books to help you reach a goal or cope with a difficult issue or handle a difficult transition in life. Here is a more formal definition of bibliotherapy. Bibliotherapy is a form of creative arts therapy that uses literature to help you improve your life by providing information, support, and guidance through reading books and stories. Books and other written material can influence human emotions and provide wisdom, emotional connection, insight, and comfort. Stories are as old as time. They're even older than the written word. Stories are how we learn to relate to one another. They're how original histories were passed down from generation to generation, long before books came along. Stories are healing. Stories connect us to others when we identify with a particular character or a particular struggle. Stories help us heal. So how can using books help you in your homeschool? Understanding abstract concepts such as feelings, anxiety, depression, or even grief can sometimes be difficult for young children. Who am I kidding? It can sometimes be difficult for the big kids too, all ages, tweens, teens, and adults alike. Learning how to make sense of what is going on inside our minds and inside our bodies and inside our hearts can present a challenge. So trying to figure out, one, what is going on with us, trying to understand it, and then what we do next once we understand it, well, you get the idea. It can be kind of complicated. By making something abstract more concrete through the use of a story, you can make a concept tangible. For example, having the reader go through an experience with a character in a story that is similar or comparable to what the reader is facing in real life and come out the other side to a resolution can bring about awareness and insight. It helps you to get to know yourself a little better, your struggle a little better, and it can also help you feel like you're not alone. You're not the only person to have ever gone through this, and you're not the only person who will. Now, I said resolution, not happy ending. Life has trials. Trials bring about growth. That's why we call them growing pains. Journeying with a character who is facing trials, learning to cope, and growing along the way can be incredibly therapeutic and cathartic for the reader. In the same way that we use a health curriculum, if you will, to teach our homeschooling students about nutrition and exercise and how best to care for one's growing body and changing body, bibliotherapy can provide students and families with information about coping with the loss of loved ones, grief, how to manage big feelings, emotional regulation, or how to avoid harmful substances, alcohol, and drug abuse. Bibliotherapy is not just for students and kids alone. Grown-ups can benefit too. Managing depression or anxiety, coping with divorce, improving self-esteem, and fostering healthy relationships are just a few of the therapeutic goals that bibliotherapy can help clients achieve. Bibliotherapy is also versatile. The technique can be practiced with the aid of a therapy professional or without. You don't have to go to therapy to use it. Check out this quote. Bibliotherapy can be practiced in either individual or group therapy sessions, or without the guidance of a therapist at all. When conducted with a therapist, bibliotherapy is rarely used as the primary or sole modality of treatment. Rather, it tends to be used in conjunction with other approaches, such as cognitive behavioral therapy or psychodynamic therapy. Bibliotherapy is inexpensive and easy to apply. Thus, it may be particularly useful for patients short on time, those with limited funds, or those whose mental health concerns are mild to moderate. Bibliotherapy from Psychology Today. So yes, it's affordable. When we use it in practice, as me, a former clinician, I wouldn't use it, and we didn't just read books all the time. I would assign reading materials when clients were open, and then we would come back and talk about what the clients went through. This included both fiction and nonfiction books. And I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll come back to how I've used bibliotherapy, not only in my professional practice, but also in my personal life and in my parenting and my homeschool in just a minute. Bibliotherapy is just another tool for our homeschooling, parenting, and wellness toolbox. It's affordable, it's easy to use, and it's best for working with pretty much anyone across all ages. So what about if you have a child who hates to read, or if you hate to read? Well, if you like to read but your child doesn't, read to them. I am a firm believer, thank you, Sarah McKenzie, in the Read Aloud revival. I'm a firm believer in still reading to children. I read, although my son is an avid reader and he reads very well, I'm an avid believer in reading to him. We read novels. We still read picture books. We are weekly visitors to the library, and he will still gravitate to the picture books. So while he's over there picking out something for himself to read, or even an audiobook, that's another wonderful source as well. Doesn't mean that you have to be the one doing all the reading. We'd all have severe cases of laryngitis if that were the case. No, pick out audiobooks. At our local library, we have something called playaways, where it provides you, it's kind of, I don't know, I'm not a tech person, but you take your own headphones and you plug them into it, and it just takes a battery and you check them out, and it's kind of like, I guess, an old MP3 player. Crickets chirping, I don't know what that's called. But you can get all different sources of reading material back when you just could get them on CDs. Do these kids even know what CDs are anymore? But you can pick a playaway out and they can have audiobooks. You can also use Audible, or you can use what one of our favorites is. We go to YouTube. We are big YouTube schoolers in this house, and we find read alouds there. So there's plenty of different options. If you don't like to read, or you don't have time to read, or you want your child to pursue some reading and they struggle, or it's great to use in the car. I put on audiobooks when we're cooking dinner, and that gives me a chance to also talk about the different characters and talk about what they're learning. Now, I will say one caveat to just handing your child a book. If it's a novel, sure, by all means, as a therapy professional, this is my recommendation. By all means, you can hand a novel to them, but know what they're reading, know what the novel is about, read it with them, follow along. So in case, especially if it's similar to a certain issue that your child is facing, whether it be bullying or whether it be anxiety or whether it be depression, I suggest that you read that book with them and you follow along with them, because we want to know what material our children are having access to. We should always know that as parents. But especially if it is along the terms of a workbook or a mental health therapy workbook or a self-help workbook, I would definitely suggest you go through that workbook with your child. It's teaching. It's where you review the information with them, you go over it with them, and then you also help them process and talk through what the exercises the exercises they have completed. That is kind of the point of bibliotherapy. We tend to process things a little bit better when we can talk through them with someone we trust, whether that be a therapist, whether that be a friend, or whether that be a parent. So those are my few caveats on using audiobooks or using therapy books in your homeschool. Now, my personal experience with bibliotherapy. When it comes to literature as a modality for education or healing or anything, really, we are all the books all the time in our house. We are voracious readers. We read for recreation and we read for information. My son learned to read at an early age. That was just his strength. That's what he gravitated to. We started reading to him when he was 6 weeks old, and we just didn't look back. Weekly library visits are just a thing for us. We took him to story time when he was little. That is one of his favorite things. We're one of those people that you see us coming out of the library where we took one bag in, and that was our goal, to take that one bag in, and we still come out with our loads of books. So I'm not complaining. That is some of our favorite ways to bond as a family. We read at night as a family. In fact, it's kind of funny, a little side story. What were we reading recently? We were reading Great Expectations, and my husband never read it. The children's version. I always read the children's literature versions of those. But my husband had never read it in high school. I'm like, how did you get through high school? And he's all Cliff Notes. I'm like, oh, right, I knew you then, and I knew that, I just forgot. But anywho, we were reading Great Expectations. I was reading to them, and they usually played with Legos during that time. But I can remember, my husband works from home, but he was working late one evening, and he heard me reading a different book upstairs, and all of a sudden I just hear him bounding upstairs, just running to get upstairs. And he stops, and he listens, and he realizes, oh, you're not reading it good. And I kind of looked at him funny because he's not really a reader. If I want him to read something, I probably need to give it to him in paragraph chunks and put it in the bathroom. Or I need to get him an audiobook. That's just who he is. He's not a voracious reader, unless it's the news. That's about it. But he stopped and he's like, I didn't want you to finish it without me. I had to find out what was going to go on with Miss Havisham. Because I'm such a reader. So you just might be surprised how the non-readers in your family might take to being read to. So, okay, back to bibliotherapy and how I use it in my house. We're voracious readers. We bring them all the books all the time from the library. Well, in my pre-homeschool mommy life, when I was a therapist and I was in private practice, I often used bibliotherapy to help my clients overcome various presenting problems. Presenting problem is just what you're coming to therapy for. That is the reason that brought you to therapy. A lot of times it's more than one thing, but we usually just pick one to work on because it can be kind of overwhelming to try to address all things all the time. It's not possible, and it sets you up for failure. But back to my clients. From healing from childhood trauma, mother wounds, father wounds, abuse, to coping with loss, to setting healthy boundaries, to coping with toxic family members, to succeeding at work. If my client was open to it, to having that little bit of in-between session client homework, if you will, I would recommend a book. And I was game to include that modality as part of my treatment plan with them. I would assign them parts to read. When they came back, we would talk about it. You'd be amazed at the amount of healing and growth that can come from either reading a nonfiction or a fiction book. Picking the right book is key, and I will speak to that. If you're interested, if you would like to know how you select bibliotherapy books to work in your homeschool, let me know in the comments section below, and I will do a video on that. So, my love for the written word, as I was saying, has kind of been around forever, and it certainly didn't stop at my office door. When I would leave for the end of the day and I would go home for myself, my personal recreation time, I used books myself to comfort, to help me through life's challenges. I'm particularly a fan of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. If you're not familiar with her, she is one of the most notable, the late Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She is one of the most notable experts who has written about the 5 stages of grief. And when we learned about the grief process, I'll put a little information about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross below. But through the different losses, losing parents, losing friends that I have experienced over my life, I have benefited from a wealth of her material and going through all of those different stages and all of those different emotions. And it's been very cathartic and healing. So I have used bibliotherapy in my practice from a personal experience. And to be honest, the one book that I go to more than anything for healing, for comfort, for support, for guidance, I'm a child of God. And we are a family of faith. So my number one for me and our family bibliotherapy recommendation is the Holy Bible, God's Word. When everything else is chaos in this life and I don't feel like I can stand and everything's on shaky ground and I can't stand, I can always stand on the promises of the Lord. So I always go back to His Word. That is my number one bibliotherapy recommendation. I have also used bibliotherapy in strengthening my marriage, in strengthening my parenting skills, in strengthening my relationship with my son, and in my homeschooling. If you are familiar with my first channel and my first website, It's Only Homeschooling, and my website, itsonlyhomeschooling.com, then you know that I have a servant's heart and I am an advocate, particularly for my son's diagnoses of developmental coordination disorder, also known as DCD or dyspraxia, dysgraphia, and sensory integration dysfunction. So I'm of the mind that at a certain age, it's important to have that discussion with your child about their diagnosis. Believe me, children see and hear everything, and they start to notice. I don't want to go off on a tangent because if you're interested, I will make another video on that about how and when to have that conversation with your child about their diagnosis. This was something I was a strong advocate for even when I worked in public education and I was in IEP meetings. Believe it or not, I can remember being in an IEP meeting with an 8th grader, and the 8th grader had no clue that they actually had diagnoses of dyslexia. They believed they were stupid. And that to me doesn't offer that child any benefit or any help whatsoever. It leads them to, children are going to fill in the gaps of that empty information. If you don't give them the information, they'll find it. They'll find it from a source that is not you, and it's either going to be inaccurate or incorrect. So knowledge is power. It's important for you to, in my belief, it is important for you to be able to be the one to give your child that information from trusted sources. You, their trusted source, their parent. But back to how I've used it with my child. Being able to give my child information about his diagnosis was empowering to him. It helped him, believe it or not, with his self-esteem. It helped him understand that we all have different strengths. We all have different challenges. These just happen to be his challenges. And it also helped him learn how to work smarter, not harder. Handwriting is difficult for him. He would struggle and be ridiculously hard on himself, perfectionistic to the point of erasing to where there were holes in the paper and wanting to get those letters just perfect. Until when he was finally diagnosed with dysgraphia, in addition to the DCD, he realized, oh, this is hard for me. And the harder I keep trying to do it this way, it's not going to make it any easier for me. It's just going to continue to be hard. I'm going to continue to be frustrated. And I'm going to continue to think that there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You just learn differently than the way other kids do. So instead, that's when he got on board and decided, okay, this typing thing might be a good idea. Let me try this typing thing. Let me give it another try and practice at it. And a year later, he's already ahead of some of his peers because his typing skills have grown and he's comfortable using it. But it took him being aware and learning, okay, these are my challenges. Mom has challenges too. Believe me, 5th grade math is just about to be the death of me. I'm so grateful for YouTube schooling. I'm so grateful for his brick and mortar school where I can send him to a teacher that holds my hand and sends me those BJU videos that I can watch with him to learn how to do 5th grade math. I have no shame it's hard for me. Yes, my husband's an engineer. He works downstairs, and there's plenty of times when I will send my son downstairs and say, hey, go look and see if Daddy has his headphones on and see if he can help you with this problem. Because Mommy's stuck, even with the video and the teacher's manual. But you know what? I'm a decent writer, so I'm going to move on with that. That is not my strength. But I use bibliotherapy. Sorry, I tend to get off on a tangent, but I've used bibliotherapy when I really reflect on it and think about it since I've been reading to him, since he was little, starting from board books to picture books to nonfiction books to now even middle grade novels. He has learned gratitude, empathy, sharing, sportsmanship, stewardship, good citizenship, all different types of things. I could be here all day if I listed all the things that we've learned from using bibliotherapy. The point is, he's also learned one of my favorite things. He's learned self-acceptance. He has learned how to challenge negative self-talk. Those voices in your head that tell you you can't do something. Well, yeah, you can. You just got to try. You may not do it the same way as this person over here, but you will learn your way to do it. He's learned an appreciation for diversity, and he's learned how to handle conflict with peers. Again, I could be here all day. The point is, bibliotherapy is a strong tool for you to have in your parenting toolbox, your marital toolbox, your homeschooling toolbox, your personal growth toolbox. And it's something that anyone can do. And it can also become pretty contagious. The more my son started learning from the books that he read, he began to want to talk about it with his friends. It also became an avenue for a way to have community. During the pandemic, when the world shut down initially and we couldn't get out and we couldn't see people, we started having those virtual play dates, where you get on a screen, kind of like this, or a Zoom meeting, if you will, and you start being able to play with your friends. Well, between Legos, which is my son's absolute favorite thing in the world, Transformers are coming in now. They're coming back. But Legos are my son's absolute favorite thing in the world. Having dysgraphia, even though he's a very strong reader, having dysgraphia, book reports, not his favorite thing in the world. So instead, he would want to talk about his book reports, which is perfectly fine with me. We're homeschoolers. We can accommodate that way if we want to. But he took it a step further. He began to want to talk about the books that he was reading with some of his playmates over Zoom calls. Then it kind of morphed into, oh, hey, I've got my Legos here, so let's create different things, different themes or different characters or different scenes from the book that we've read together out of Legos. Well, then he decided, hey, this is kind of like a book club. Pandemic ended, if you will, or people started to be able to get out and become more social, but he didn't want this fun new book club that he had started to end. And he also loves YouTube, even though I don't let him put his face out there on things. No criticism whatsoever to anyone who does. Every family is different, but for us, we're not willing to let him put his face out there just yet. Anywho, he took this love for books and this love for Legos, and he put a new twist on an old favorite, and he created, this is his merch. Yes, I bought 3 t-shirts so he could say he has merch for his book club. This is his merch. Let me move back from the camera just a little bit so you can see it. Books and Bricks, a hands-on book club for kids. So this went on for about 18 months where I would allow him to, he would pick the book, he would read the book, and we would announce to his little small offering or audience, I guess you would say, that he had on a private Facebook group and also on my YouTube channel. I did share that with him since he didn't, my first YouTube channel for It's Only Homeschooling, where he would pick the book, he would announce that, then readers or an audience members could read that book together over a month, and then at the end of the month, he would create a little video where he would build creations, either retelling the story or telling about something that he learned via the medium of Legos. And so that is how it grew into a hobby. It got him reading, and it served its purpose for that time. It was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed doing that for, I think we did it for about 18 months. And then school got a little harder and life got a little busier, and we added other things like drum lessons and swim, so we had to kind of say goodbye to that. But the point is, if you'd like to see those videos as well, I will put some cards up here and a link to the playlist that we've got for that on my other channel. The point is, it was an avenue for him to do something creative. He learned a lot, not just from what he read in the books. He learned how to create digital content. He learned how to intern edit that content, because that was my disclaimer. If you want to do this, that's great, but mommy's not going to edit your videos. You've got to learn how to do that. So he learned Canva. And now those same skills have helped him when it's time to do presentations at school. He knows how to pull a topic together, he knows how to find a presenting problem, and he knows how to write about it, and then he knows how to present it. Bibliotherapy led to that. So you never know how using bibliotherapy in your home can help your student. The possibilities are endless. So where do I find reading suggestions for bibliotherapy? Probably the same places I find anything else. Pinterest. That's my first place that I go to. Or I know what topic that I'm looking for, if it's either grief, or if it's self-esteem, or if it's dysgraphia, or if it's dyspraxia. I will simply just go to my library, type it in at Amazon, or go to my digital library, my virtual library, and I will get books on it from there. I do preview everything before I go over it with him, just in case, because you never know, something that may seem completely innocuous or not triggering, or I'm almost going to hate that word because of the context that it's misused in so much now, but it actually is a real word that we use in therapy if it's used in the proper terms. But if there's something that could be upsetting to him in that material, because I know my child, and so do you. You know your children better than anyone else. I do preview the material, or at least I'm right there with him when he is going over it, and make sure to, therapists would call it debrief. I would call it discussing it with him. So if you like this video and you like the content that we create on this channel, click the like and subscribe button and come be a part of our village. Also, let us know in the comments what you would like to see. What content would you like to see? Me as the chief creator, or as our guest contributors, because more of them are signing up as well, both professionals and lay persons alike. If you are a homeschooling parent who likes to create content, whether that's printables, whether that's blog posts, or any of the like, visit our website that's my first website, sorry. Visit our website at thehomeschoolcounselingnetwork.com and find out ways that you can come be a part of our community. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.